Hello, my name is Reginald and I'm the Point in Time Count Coordinator for the Mississippi Balanced Estate Continuum of Care. And this video serves as a training tool to help you navigate Counting Us, which is the tool we'll be using to count during the 2019 Point in Time Count. The Counting Us app is a mobile app that was developed by Simtech Solutions to automate collection of data for the annual homeless census, the Point in Time Count. And it's a tool that we will be using to make our count more efficient and to get more immediate results. Before getting started, there are a couple of things to adhere to. Number one, the first step to using the app is to download the app on your phone. You can find the Counting Us app in your local Google Play Store if you have an Android device or Google phone. Or you can find, if you are an Apple user or an iPhone user, in the Apple App Store. All you have to do is go and search Counting Us, and the app will come up and you will download it. Now, for the purposes of our training today, I will be using the Counting Us website, which is counting.us. This is also an alternative usage should you would like to take surveys using the website. I would also like to mention that the survey that you'll be taking through the mobile app will also be matching our point in time count survey, which is located at mute.wordpress.com. There is a paper survey that matches the form of the mobile counting app and its questions. So if you are not comfortable with this particular step technologically, you can go to mute.wordpress.com under resources, and you can download the paper survey and take it as well. Once you've downloaded the app, the next step is to register. And so if you would follow along with me, all you have to do is go to the register button here and click and fill out the counting and register an account for the Counting Us app by filling in the simple information, your name, last name, email. Please, in all instances you can, please put your cell phone number. And this is so that the point in time count coordinators or the local data administrators are able to contact you in the field if they have questions about certain data that is being submitted. Also put in a memorable password, and then you hit submit registration. Now, for the purposes of this demo, I have already created registration. But once you have submitted registration, then you'll be able to go back and log in. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Log in. All right. So once you've logged in, you should see the screen that basically tells you to first choose a count. To choose a count, all you have to do is first click on the blue button that says choose count. And then you have to join a new count. Now, for the purposes of this demo, I've already joined a demo count. But for those of you who are new to the process, what you simply do is you go to Join New Count, and then you enter the setup key. The setup key for our particular count has not been released yet, and it will be released closer as we get closer to the date of the point in time count. For the purposes of this demo, we will use the keyword demo. Once you enter it, hit join count. And once you've joined the count, you select the team. In this case, we will select test team. The teams that will be used in our particular count will more than likely be the Balance of State team versus another Continuum of Care's team. In this case, we're going to use test team. And as it indicates on the screen, it says now you are counting for the demo region. And so the coordinating message would be for you. If you're counting with the Balance of State, it would say that you are now counting for the Mississippi Balance of State. And we hit OK. And so now we're on the counting home screen. And so what we want to do next is we want to move towards getting started. We click the green button. And as we click the green button, we see that there are an array of choices here. And what I want to begin to do is I want to begin to take you through many of the options that will be used so that you're able to have the most effective count possible. Now, I have to mention that as you're completing information in the Counting Us app, there are options where you are able to count without using an internet connection. And I'll talk more about that as we go through the demo, but just know that you are able to actually partake and do surveys without necessarily submitting them over the internet immediately. They can be saved into here, which is called the drafts. And then once you're in a place, once you have saved your drafts, then once you're in Wi-Fi range, then you're able to submit each draft individually. We'll come back to that. So now let's get started. Once again, you notice that there are multiple choices that are being represented within this demo. You see here you have sheltered survey, unsheltered survey, youth survey, observation tally, as well as disaster response demo. For the cases of our point in time count demo, we will be using our sheltered survey and unsheltered survey, and we will also work to cover our observation tally. To begin, we're going to start with our unsheltered survey. As you progress through the screens, one of the first questions you are asked towards counting an individual is whether it is one individual or a household of people. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to complete an individual demo, and we will come back to the household demo. Once you have chosen individual, on your mobile app, assuming that your settings are allow for location, you should receive the location of where the person you are interviewing is being interviewed. And so as you can clearly see from this map, it has a pinpoint mark in my current location. However, let's just say that maybe you met this person in a place that is not necessarily where they stay or where they live or where they're encamped. However, you still want to accurately identify them as being an unsheltered individual that stays somewhere else. Well, you could simply, if the person lives where you are actually being marked, you can simply click next step. But if they are not, you can go to enter address and you can enter a more specific location so that you are able to pinpoint their location. So let's just say for this demo that the person is living in Jackson on 201 West Capitol Street. And then I can submit this as being the exact location for where this person actually is placed or encamped. And so now that I've entered the exact address, now the address is pinpointed at that exact location on 201 West Capitol Street. And now we're going to go on to the next step. First question that's always asked during a point in time count is basically, have you been already interviewed today for the point in time count? And my assumption that in this case is that this person has not been interviewed for the point in time count. And so what we're going to say is no. And then you notice that as you answer questions, your answers progress. It says, next question, where are you sleeping on the night of the count? And as you click in the drop-down menu, you'll see various options of valid choices of where a person could have been sleeping during the point in time count. And you notice more notable ones such as street or sidewalk, abandoned buildings, under a bridge, outdoor encampment. And keep in mind, these are various, not only sheltered but unsheltered locations as well. You see emergency shelter, transitional housing, hotels and motels paid by for an agency, and so on. In this case, we're going to choose on the street or sidewalk. And so once we choose street or sidewalk, then we can launch into the survey. It begins to ask us, what is your name? And so we're going to go ahead and begin to put their name. Joe. Joe Doe. What are your initials? JD. What is your gender? And under the gender choices, notice that you have multiple choices of gender ranging from male to female, also being represented are people who are identified as transgender, as well as people who are gender non-conforming. For the purposes of this demo, we will choose male. The next question is, what age range do you fall into? And so this is very helpful if someone is not necessarily forthcoming about their age, but you can kind of see within the range that they are typically in. For the purpose of the demo, we're going to use 35 to 44. Next, we use date of birth. And notice that there is we can be very specific about choosing a date of birth. In this case, we're going to say that he was born on January 1st, 1983. And click done. The next question is, what is your age? His age is 35. Now, the next question is, what is your race? Select all that apply. And under here, you can select multiple boxes. For the purposes of this demo, we will select Black or African American. But notice that you can also choose, you can choose as many races as that apply. And so next, we have the ethnicity question concerning, are you Hispanic or Latino? We're going to say no. Is this the first time you've been homeless? Now, this all leads into the homelessness, the length of stay in homelessness. So be really particular in trying to answer these questions so that we're able to accurately pin the length of homelessness and figure out whether or not they are chronically homeless. For the purposes of this demo, yes, no, this is not his first time being homeless. We're going to say that he's been homeless for about 12 months. So about 12 months. We're going to say that he's been asleep in shelter for about 3 months. And how many separate times have you stayed? In shelters on the street in the past 3 years? We're going to say that he stayed more than 4 times. How many months have you been in this community? We're going to say 24 months. And then, are you homeless as a result of a natural disaster? In this case, we're going to say no. The next set of questions are about sensitive topics. So in this case, I would ask that you go back and refer to our point in time count training videos. Now, although they can be lengthy, I believe that they give you a good depth of figuring out how to interact with people who may not be comfortable giving you information. And so for that, I point you back to mute.wordpress.com to be able to look at those videos and get a feel for how to interact with people who are in homeless situations. Continuing on, the first question under these sensitive topics is, do you have any substance abuse issues? In this case, we're going to say that our test case has both drug and alcohol issues. And so once you answer that question, another box pops up asking, is this of a long-term disability that impairs your ability to hold a job or live independently. In this case, we're going to say yes by checking the box. Do you have a chronic health condition? In this case, we're going to say no. Do you have a mental health problem? In this case, we're going to say no. Do you have a physical disability? We're also going to say no. And so just understand that as you fill out the information concerning disabilities and health conditions, you will have to answer maybe one additional follow-up question. For instance, if we choose developmental disability, if we say yes, there may be a follow-up question. You just have to be aware of that and be sure to fill out the survey as completely as possible. Keep in mind that if you do not fill out the survey as completely as possible, the app may kick back and force you to answer questions or to make sure that you've accounted for all answers to questions. See, for the purpose of developmental disability, we're going to say no. Do you receive any disability benefits? No. Do you have AIDS or an HIV-related illness? We're going to say no in this case. Are you currently experiencing homelessness because you are fleeing domestic violence, dating violence, or sexual assault, or stalking? For this test case, we will say no. Also, be aware that it also asks you a veteran status. In this case, this client is not a veteran. And keep in mind, if you are taking this survey on the behalf of the balanced estate, we want to make sure that you answer all the questions as clearly as possible. Try to leave no stone unturned. All right, so now that we've filled out this unsheltered survey, we have two options. If you have internet, you are able to simply add and say submit survey, or let's say that you're in a point where you're out in the field and you don't have a connection that is reliable. What you can do is simply click Save Draft. And so in this case, we're going to save draft. So now notice that when you save a draft, it kicks us back to the survey home screen. And if you notice, there's a notification bar here by drafts. You notice that there's a notification that says 1, meaning we have one draft. If we click on drafts, and we clearly see that there is a survey that is there that was just created after I saved the demo test. And so what we have to do is keep in mind that the survey that is in the draft is not submitted until you hit submit survey. So as you're saving survey drafts, they will all appear in the survey draft section, and then you will have to physically open the drafts, or select the drafts, and then click an open draft. And notice that it has all of your information that you had completed earlier, if you can see. And once you've gone through the information, made sure it was clear, once you're in Wi-Fi range or internet range, then you hit submit survey. And once you've submitted the survey, then it will become a part of the official count. And notice you see it says success. This response has been successfully submitted. And then we can say okay. And so that in itself is one individual survey. And notice that now that we've completed submitting that draft, it has disappeared from our survey draft section. And so now what I like to do is I like to go back. I like to do another survey, but this time I like to do a survey for a shelter, and I want to do it also for a household. Now, when doing a household survey, the first question that's going to be asked is this: including yourself, how many adults and children are there in this household who are sleeping in the same location tonight? So in this case, let's just say that using that same demo model, except for Joe has a son. And so we're going to say that he has a son, and we're going to put 2. So we know there are going to be 2 people that we're going to have to account for. And so if you have a family, be sure to count it as a household and specify how many people, including the first person you're surveying, is in the household. We're going to hit OK. Remember, once again, when you start off the survey, there's a way to go up, two ways to go about it. Either it can use your mobile device's GPS coordinate to see exactly where you are, or once again, if that person is not where you meet them is not exactly where they are and their address is different, you can go and enter the address. But let's just say in this case that the very part that you're standing in is exactly where they live. And we're going to hit next step. Now, notice I said that this is for a sheltered count. So in this case, we're going to have to provide information about the organization. So in this case, as an organization, what we're going to say is that this person is part of Homeless Organization 1. And on with that, we have to provide the project. And in this case, we're going to say that this project is an emergency shelter. Once we've selected the organization and the project, now we can go on to hit next step. Now, notice because we are surveying a household, notice here in the top corner, it says that you are editing a household. You are on member 1 of 2. This reminds you that in the course of doing your survey, you're going to have to enter information on 2 participants. And so in this case, we're going to start with the head of household. And so if you notice here in the shaded area, it says relationship to the head of household. In this case, is the head of household self. And then it asks the same question again: have you already interviewed today for the point in time count? In this case, we're going to say no. And once again, the personal info is now being provided. And now we're going to go back and add Joe's information. And keep in mind, we're doing this test case for the same as we did for the individual Joe. And click done. We're going to say that once again that Joe is not Latino or Hispanic. This is not his first time. We're just going to generate some information here just to keep the survey going. Keep in mind, once again, that as you enter the sensitive topics concerning substance abuse issues, mental health issues, and health conditions, be sure to answer not only the question, but also the follow-up questions. So in this case, both alcohol and drug, and then say that, and then clarify, is this of a long-term disability? One of the things about this year's point in time count is that because the survey is a lot briefer than it has been in previous years with the point in time count, we were using the Via Spadat, which had more questions. Completing many of the questions should not take you that long. So our hope is that as you're doing the survey, it will shorten your time and make you more efficient in the field as you're engaging. You can also add notes once again, and in this case, we're going to submit survey. Now notice that once I've submitted under Joe Doe, And I hit OK. Now notice that it now asks, it says you are editing a household. So now we're still in the Doe family, but now we're going to edit member 2 of 2. Now in this case, we're going to say that the second participant in this household is a child, and this child has not been asked these questions today, or have not asked his parents today. And this will also be Joe. This will, in fact, we'll just make this John Doe. Again, the initials JD. It's his son. We're going to say that his son is male. What age range? We're going to say under 5. And so I would like to point out here is that if you have a parent or a person who is reluctant to give out information, let's say concerning their birth dates, what we can do, the best way to mitigate that circumstance is to try to get roundabout information. Keep in mind too that the point in time count is voluntary, and so people are able to turn down any question they don't want to answer. But as best you can, try your best to get, if not exact answers, at least try to figure out maybe an estimation of what that person's birth date or age may be, if they are able to give it to you, or if they feel comfortable giving it to you. Keep in mind that they can turn down answering questions if they feel uncomfortable, and we are understanding of that because you're even though you're a volunteer and you are counting for their greater good, they may not have met you and they may not be comfortable giving that information to a stranger. I'm going to say that he's 3. And we'll try to do our best to give him the same attributes as his father here. How many months did you stay in shelter? We're going to just make up a number here. All right, and so now we've made information for the child in this situation, and so now we're going to submit the survey. All right, so notice that now we've submitted the survey for not only the father but the child, and notice that it will not take us back to the home screen until we have completed all information for everyone in the household. In this case, we're going to say OK. And so now that we're back at the home screen, I want to make mention of one other particular circumstance in which you will be you may have to interact within the point in time count, and that is observation. Now, observations are clearly needed for, you see, what were sheltered and unsheltered surveys, or for people who are being interviewed face to face. Observations, or for people who we don't have an interview with, or who are unable to give us information or choose to refuse to give us information, but we're able to get some bit of data on that person or that household. In this case, we're going to say that this is an individual. And so observations in most cases will be sort of vague. But my hope is that we are able to actually interact with the person whom we are interviewing and be able to get more specific information. But once again, if you are not able to, observations are the way to go. In this case, we're going to go ahead and pin our location here. And notice that in the observation tally, it gives us general specifics. It does not go as lengthy because we are not doing an interview. We are in this case just trying to get an approximate age range, a gender, an ethnicity, if that can be somewhat identified, and then any additional notes that we can take on behalf of that person. So in this case, we're going to guess that the estimate of age range in this case is, let's say, 45 to 54. We're going to say that this person is a male. We're going to say that this person is white and they are not Hispanic. And we're going to say that we found wandering through neighborhood, seen by neighbors frequently, unsure of housing location. All right, and once we've entered some information concerning this observation, we're going to submit survey. Keep in mind, once again, if you do not have internet, you can save a draft, and then once you're in internet range, you can then go back and submit that survey later. But in this case, we're going to submit the survey. And so that was submitting an observation. Now, with all this, now that we've gone through most of the general subsets that we will have to encounter in the point in time count, I think that becomes a well-rounded overview that you can use to begin to interact with the point in time count. I would also like to take this time to mention that if you would like more information and resources concerning the point in time count, the best place to go is mute.wordpress.com. This is the Balance of State's official point in time count resource site. And on here, you will find all the steps necessary to accurately count for the balance of state or any other COC if you would choose. But in this case, to volunteer the balance of state count, the first thing you need to do is, number one, go and click and volunteer. And when you volunteer, you'll see the volunteer sign-in form. You complete that. Next, you will complete orientation. Orientation will be including these videos, including the one that you are watching. And finally, we would like for you to take a small quiz. This is just to reinforce what you have learned through watching the videos and seeing the data that has been presented to you. And to pass the quiz, you must score above 70% on the quiz. If you do not score 70% or above, you must retake the quiz until you pass. And then once you have taken the quiz, you will get an email notification verifying to you that you have completed the quiz and you've satisfied all the requirements to be an official counter for the Mississippi Balance of State point in time count. Once you have gotten that official certification through email, lastly, you can go to resources. And here is where you can download a litany of resources, including the point in time count surveys, point in time count cheat sheets, point in time count documents, guides, and helps, as well as other supplemental resources that are valuable to helping you to complete the count. Our hope is that your count is more efficient. If you have any questions, you can always contact me, Reginald Glenn, by email, rglenn@msbos.org. Once again, that's rglenn@msbos.org. Or, once again, you can come back to this site, mute.wordpress.com, the official point in time count resource site. Thank you guys for watching this video.